We are the keepers of a great and sacred trust. And part of that trust is being in relationship. We've talked a lot in recent months about being in relationship with ourselves, with one another, with those in our community, and with whatever is most ultimate, intimate, higher power, deeper power for us. And one of the decisions we've made as a congregation is that in our community partnerships, we want to have relationships of more depth with our community partners. So we've become a little bit more clear that there are 4 groups, many of whom we've worked with for a while, that we want to grow deeper in relationship with. And so our offering, our Share the Plate, we're now cycling through those 4 organizations. And over the next couple of months, we'll be able to meet some of these folks in worship as well as out in the community. So those groups are Easton Elementary School, who we've been working with for a while now. UU Justice North Carolina, which is our denomination's statewide justice network. They do advocacy work. We were involved in their fight for Medicaid expansion last year that was very successful. And they also do more direct on-the-ground organizing. They did work to keep elections safe for all this year that many of us were involved in. We are also working with the Industrial Areas Foundation, IAF, our community organizing partner. And then today we have with us Chris, who's the director of the Flourish Program of the Shalom Project. And Chris is gonna come up and talk with us a little more now about what that is, and really grateful just for this avenue to have a conversation with him and with you all. If you can't see, I'll just offer that there are some seats right up front. Should you want to come closer, we'd be fine with that. And here we go, thank you. So Chris, as we kind of shift into a conversation which feels relevant today in talking about building depth and trust, let's start by just tell us a little bit about you. We heard the bio, but tell us a little bit about you and about the Flourish Program, and we'll hear how this congregation has been involved.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me today. I'm delighted to be here to have this conversation with Reverend Kayla and all of you. I was telling the 9:15 service, I think this is about 4th or 5th time being here between worship and forum, so I feel like I'm an honorary UU member at this point. So I grew up nearby in Statesville, North Carolina, just a little bit to the west of here. And the main thing we knew about Winston coming from Statesville is that you had a really cool mall. It had 2 levels and a merry-go-round in the middle of it, and so we would come over here for that. Since then, as Brenda said, I worked as a professor of public theology and religious ethics in Washington, D.C., and then moved back here to be close to family. My family lives in Davie County now, and started working at the Shalom Project. So taking some of the kind of theoretical work on social justice that I did in DC and worked with different faith-based advocacy groups in DC, working on the policy level to kind of come and now do this social justice work on the ground. And so I do that with the Shalom Project. Shalom is an umbrella nonprofit. We have a food pantry and a clothing closet. We have a free medical clinic and pharmacy that's open on Wednesday evenings. And it's important to meet some of those immediate needs for people who are experiencing crisis, but also recognizing, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about systemic injustice and systemic needs, recognizing that to create a world and a context where you don't need to be giving away food and clothing. You have to address some of the deeper issues. And so Flourish tries to do that by providing education and resources to women with low income. And so we're a financial education and holistic wellness program designed to help women with low income achieve financial self-sufficiency, recognizing that there are many intersecting obstacles to financial mobility, especially here in Forsyth County, that actually ranks in the bottom 5% nationally in terms of financial mobility. It's a kind of astounding statistic, and so you really to counter something that's that daunting, you really have to begin to address stuff on a deeper level. So Flourish does that with education, and then in collaboration with groups like you who are working out with the IF efforts to really address the systems that are keeping people continually in these systems of poverty and low income.
Yeah, so I thought when I first moved here that all of Shalom Project was at Green Street, and I now understand that you have a couple different projects with the Shalom Project, and I learned that, you all kind of came after. So maybe for folks who are also getting familiar with y'all, can you just talk about like the Shalom Project and the different projects, and then maybe we can get a little more into how folks here have been involved?
Yes, the Shalom Project has been around since 2007. It was originally launched as a ministry out of Green Street United Methodist Church that has a history of being active in the community, and then became an independent nonprofit since then. Flourish, so our offices are still at Green Street. They allow us to use their basement for office space. The food pantry and clothing closet are there. The medical clinic actually meets on Maplewood Avenue across from the Novant Hospital. We have a space there for that. Flourish, the Flourish program meets. We're a cohort model. We currently have 2 cohorts that meet, one on Mondays for women heads of household, and one on Tuesdays in Spanish for local Latino women. And we're going to be launching a third for teen moms and pregnant teenagers that'll actually meet at Ardmore United Methodist Church. So we're kind of expanding the area that we meet. Flourish began in 2017, and it was basically a financial education program. I started there in 2021, and in conversation with our participants, they appreciated the classes that we have on budgeting and saving strategies, how to read a credit report and increase your credit, and career development classes like resume writing and interview skills and soft skills in the workplace. We provide a savings match program and laptops for all of our participants. And while those are really important skills and knowledge to have in conversation with participants, they identified the many obstacles to their success and named mental health as one of the most significant ones. It's tough to even have the mental space to learn about some of those skills, if you're in daily stress and anxiety that comes with living with low income, or managing kids and 2 jobs and that kind of thing. So with help of a grant, we were able to include mental health education into our curriculum. So I actually begin every semester with mental health education and conclude it. We bookend our financial classes with mental health education, and then those same licensed therapists who do the group work also provide twice a month therapy for all the participants in the program for the entire time that they're in the program and up to 6 months afterwards. And we've seen really significant changes in the program since doing that. In the last year, we've partnered with the Wake Forest School of Medicine to be able to kind of assess how this is changing the lives of the women, and they have experiencing 25% reduction in feelings of financial stress, 25% increase in their overall health and well-being, as well as a nearly 50% increase in their self-reported ability to manage their mental health and their finances. And all of that has been because of adding the mental health component in there, which really speaks to the need for that and taking a kind of intersecting holistic approach to this.
Yeah. I mean, I want to acknowledge that, because I think right here in this, I think the clap is because we all know that's really true, right? And in this room and in this community, we have like a vast array of class realities and economic realities. And I think for all of us that when our mental health or our spiritual and emotional health isn't doing well, we know that that just makes life really hard to do. So I think it's great that your program has been able to make that shift. And I'm wanting to get into something deeper, but I'm also like, maybe pause. I think just for folks who don't know, our congregation is mainly involved in Flourish by helping to provide meals on class nights. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
so each session begins with a meal. Like I said, we 2 years ago launched a second cohort in Spanish for Latino women, seeing that Spanish speakers were some of the main demographics coming to our food pantry and clothing closet, and their self-expressed need for mental health care also. And so we have 2 bilingual therapists that we contract with that provide that. So each session begins with a meal. The women bring their kids. We provide childcare during the programs, but we all eat together and Flourish with the leadership of Carol Zeal, who's somewhere here, helps, provides meals every semester for the program, which is a great way to get involved and get to experience it and kind of see the program and meet the participants in it, which that relationality is key to understanding some of the systemic issues that are here. We also have a volunteer role called companions, who are just community members who commit to coming to every meeting and meet in small groups with the participants to help them with encouragement and goal setting. At our graduations, we give our participants, our graduates, a chance to talk about their experience in the program. And they name the financial education piece as important, but they speak mostly about the mental health, their relationship with their therapists, and the kind of community support they feel from their companions. So we've actually had a companion from your fellowship who has participated in the program, and that's a really rewarding experience to do that. And so we're grateful for the partnership that y'all have offered to us.
Yeah, and again, things that I think speak to all of us, right? That our relationships in community are typically the most important to us and to our success and how we're doing. So I want to highlight something that I loved kind of hearing and how Flourish has been growing. Like, first, it sounds like Shalom was mostly a food pantry, and then you all were like, well, we want to address some of, like, we would love it if people didn't have to come here for food and clothing. Like, how do we put ourselves out of business? And Flourish was kind of born out of that hope. And then what you didn't say is that I know that it was partially like you're listening to participants and them saying like, hey, mental health is actually a big issue as to why the program has shifted a lot in recent years. So I love that leadership model, and it's something we're working on doing more here of like saying, hey, how is this going? What do we need to be changing and shifting? And I love that the program has shifted and just is meeting people's needs so much better because of that. So I just want to say thank you and props for that. And also naming that, I can't be everywhere, but I try to at least like peek into most things that we're doing. So I was able to come to one meal that was offered at Flourish and was able to hang out for at least a little bit. And one of the things I noticed was that for someone who has, like an impressive bio and whatever, you were just kind of like sitting back and letting the leaders do their thing. And like there you were as, the white dude and and in a room of mostly women of color who were leading. And I was impressed and grateful by that. And it also indicated to me that like, you've done some of your own work, right? To be doing the work that you're doing, and then also to be comfortable leading in the way that you're leading, and empowering other people to really be, telling you what they need and responding to it. So I'm just curious, like what has been your own kind of formation in understanding privilege and race and being at least more comfortable in doing the work that you're doing?
Yeah. Well, I think we've seen in national press conferences this week that there's no shortage of white dudes talking. I think that it's important to have a sort of confident humbleness, recognizing what we know and what we don't know, and the way our own experiences shape our perspective, and knowing what we're good at and not good at. I mean, if you want to know a lot about a couple different theologians, I could talk to you for hours about it, but it took me 3 days to put my son's basketball goal together, right? So there are limits to what we know, and recognizing those are important. And I work with a great team of a Black woman and a Latina woman who we work well together. And we all have our strengths and know what we're good at. And I think recognizing those limits is important. And then placing yourself in situations and in relationships that help to widen that, right? So I grew up in Statesville, out in the country, as a fundamentalist, evangelical Southern Baptist, and then it's a journey of mistakes and missteps, and being willing to make those mistakes and be corrected and have that, like I said, that kind of confident humbleness about it to learn. And then through seminary and all kinds of experiences that lead to kind of opening up your worldview. One important one being when I went to the University of Virginia, finished a dissertation on churches and racial justice in May of 2017. And then I came back in August of 2017 as a counter-protester to the Unite the Right white supremacy rally that took place there. And one of and there are all kinds of things I could talk about from that day, but one of the takeaways for me was recognizing that all the different churches that I had formed relationships with in my 7 years in Charlottesville, how they did not show up that day, and how kind of fundamentally disappointed I was in that response, and recognizing that, just that kind of surface level engagement and is not addressing some of the deeper things that are there. The white supremacists that were there that day were a symptom of a system that had enabled them to feel like they could do that because there's no resistance to it. And the same is true for financial mobility and environmental justice. It's all based on these systems that are intersecting and interlocking that take deeper attempts to address if we're really going to make a long and sustainable difference.
Yeah. We had some little claps. Yeah. So where's the tension then in your current work? Because Flourish is still by and large it's a little more engaged, but it's still service, right? You're not shifting systems. So how is that for you?
Yeah, I mean it's difficult. So for instance, we have one of our graduates from the program, and graduates can come back to the program to serve in a role we call bridgers, who from their experience in the program help mentor the new participants. And one of our bridgers, she came into the program unemployed, got a job as a teaching assistant, then was promoted to a full-time teacher. Now has been in the program for a couple years, is a public school middle school teacher, the track coach, working on her master's degree in education.
While having two kids.
With a single mother of two kids.
Yep.
Brandy, yeah. Is doing great. And then I had a conversation with her back before graduation, and she was like, I still struggle paycheck to paycheck to make ends meet, because as her income has increased, her childcare benefits have decreased, and her food benefits have decreased. And so as she is one of the success stories of the program, she still struggles, and that's because of the system that we're in, where achievement like that is not rewarded; it's punished by taking away other services and resources. And so, there are limits to what we're able to do, even as we kind of try to dig deeper than just kind of direct service. And so that's where our work and your work in organizations like IAF is so important. And I was at the meeting the other day, and I think there were 50 of you guys there, which was great. To really address things on the policy level is the way to make change. And the other great thing about IAF, kind of like Flourish, is that it enables you to form relationships with people that you might not normally be in relationship with, right? And those are the learning opportunities to really see and experience perspectives from those who are vulnerable and who are being impacted the most, and learn from that and allow them to set the issues and lead you. And then we kind of follow their lead from the people who are most impacted and help support them in that. And I think that's the great work about that program and partnerships like that.
Yeah, it all comes back to deepening in relationship. Not to be like, we have a message we're trying to get across, but we have a message we're trying to get across, right? And we've been talking a lot recently about this deepening in relationship with self, which I think, Chris, you spoke to really well, of kind of in your own history and integrating your own values and doing your own work, but it's that relationship with self, relationship with others, people in this congregation, because we know that there's a lot of diversity and diversity of experience right here, as well as deepening our relationships with our community partners and folks out in the community. And that will transform us, right, as individuals, those relationships, because we know when we're in real relationships of depth, that's what happens, right? And that's also, I think, our best chance to be shifting our systems and the world that we live in. So thank you all for kind of deepening in with us today as we have these conversations, and I hope that it is the first of many. I know that after the first service, Chris was kind of lingering and talking, and you also know that you can talk with Brenda and Carol if you are wanting to get a little more involved in Flourish and learn more about what they're about. So thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Thanks for being here and for all your support.